Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Let's Talk. This is the new weird angle. You're quite far away, I'm aware, but maybe I can zoom in. Who knows, maybe I'm like, you know what? Just so we're not completely self-absorbed, let's put something here in the corner. This is gonna be a little bit small, just so that we can have something else to draw aggro, attention, and whatnot. Now, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to, of course, Let's Talk. What was the last thing we talked about? Oh, right, I haven't even uploaded the video yet. I recorded like 3 weeks ago, but it was about me. Oh, what was it talking about again? It was something like, a little towards the end of it, we talked about YouTube things and how I'm a psycho and I don't think giving up isn't good enough and all these things, some motivational shit in my head that you guys also, I thought, why not listen to if you want to, but also I finally figured out how to use the camera a little better, so hopefully the colors will nice. I like this red, it's popping. The lights are still, just ridiculously bright. Still need to get that diffuser. Nobody's perfect. But ladies and gentlemen, today, we're going to talk about something I'm not sure I want to talk about. And that's first. Usually, to some extent, I'm like, boom. Like, when I make a Let's Talk, the whole point is about expressing my opinion, not so that people can hear it necessarily, but so that I can hear it. Because for whatever reason in my brain, the things that, make me understand parts of who I am is when I just sit down with myself and force myself to talk about something for a long enough period of time to where eventually I'm like, oh, that's what I believe. And that's where I line up, and that's what I deem valuable. And all those things kind of fall into place when you truly keep asking yourself questions, which I feel like is kind of obvious, because that's what therapy essentially is you constantly asking the person questions until eventually they find out what is their truth to an extent. Anyways, well, the thing that I'm not so sure I want to talk about is, well, I'm gonna give you guys some context. So I'm not sure if all of you guys know this, but I am a pure, or not a pure, definitely not, but a clean person, so to speak. Meaning I have not ever drank a drop of alcohol in my entire life. I also have not done any drugs. What do you call it? The only thing I could say that I may have polluted my body quite a little bit with, and I still do on occasion, is energy drinks. That's the only thing that I brought into my system that would otherwise be very destructive. Of course, a McDonald's burger here or there, that kind of thing. Now, so I don't, because exercise is like a commonplace in my life, and if I have too much grease, it screws me for my inevitable exercise. So that's a no-no. But I've replaced largely energy drinks with coffee. Weird little side thing though, whenever I feel sick, I have a Red Bull and I'm immediately better. It only happens every two or so months. But it's really weird that has that connection with my body. I don't know. It kind of makes sense. Boosts your immune system or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, so you guys might be like, oh, Grin, why have you never drank? Do you have strict parents? Is your upbringing that way? Is it like a super personal thing with you? Bad examples in your life, etc.? No, none of that actually. I've always had pothead friends around me. My parents have always drank and never done it to excess, of course. When you go camping, of course, things get a little bit tipsy, but still. Never had a problem. They never had a problem with me doing it. They've always asked me to do it as long as I'm doing it with them and moderation. They were fine when I was younger to even test it. We now know that medically that is not good. The developing brain is only fully formed at 25, I think. I'm 22, a couple of years to go. Anyways, point being is that was never a barrier for me. And same thing with, drugs. You had friends that did weed, why didn't you? Or tried weed or whatever. Marijuana, Mary Jane, why didn't you participate, Grin? Well, honestly, a big reason why drugs and any sort of, and let's start with marijuana for instance. Again, I just want to make this clear. I have zero issue with anybody who does these. I would prefer people did it in moderation, if no one just went balls deep every single time and destroy their body with both substances, getting baked out of your mind or getting completely blackout drunk. But hey, not my life, whatever you want to do. But personally, we'll get into that. But again, when it comes to marijuana, for instance, I had a lot of friends that constantly did this. And to me, it is from a person that's always felt like you were like a meter behind another person. The last thing that I wanted was to feel like I was slowing down or letting someone else beat me, letting someone else run faster. You know, I've always come to the realization of there's always people that are going to be better at you than things, but that's not an excuse to not be the best. You know, that's just more fuel for the brutal reality of life is that you need to put in 3 times, sometimes 100 times, sometimes 1,000,000 times. Sometimes you won't even be able to put in enough, but sure as hell you should try, just to be able to beat another person, just to be able to get further than another person, right? So of course, a lot of my friends did the whole weed thing. You know, they on break between classes, they would run out to go to this very obvious little pot, like smoke hole, I guess, and do it, and then come back. And I think all the teachers knew, but they didn't give a fuck anyway. So it was just a weird system, honestly. But me, I was struggling like hell in school. Like it was hard for me to memorize, and I told you guys about my whole learning disability thing, where my ability to compartmentalize and specifically remember things is terrible. Like I can take in information incredibly fast, but I lose it instantly. So that's not great. But hey, you win some, you lose some. I think I'm jumping around to too many things. I'm trying to tackle substances as a whole rather than the experience that I went through. Which, by the way, this whole Let's Talk is because for the first time in my entire life, I got drunk. Yep, I can no longer say I've never drank or taken a drink of alcohol in my entire life. And I'd be like, Grin, why? Why did you do this? Seems kind of weird. Seems out of the blue. Well, yeah, it's definitely out of the blue. And now again, just the family situations. You know, you go to visit your grandparents. You have a get together. Almost always someone comes around to me and is like, "Hey, do you want a drink? Do you want alcohol? Do you want a beer? Do you want a Corona? Do you want whatever? Any of these things? Wine?" And I've always answered no. To this point, and now my family knows, and they're like, "Okay, well, we just want to ask him because we know he doesn't want it." Now, you guys may be like, okay, well, if you don't want it, then why did you do this? You know, why did you drink? Well, before I can say why I chose to drink a drink in this specific situation, why don't you? Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what the reason is. Actually, I do, but it's like, you know when there's so many reasons for one thing, but so like you don't know which one is the pinnacle, but they all matter, you know? And again, this is me totally not begrudging anyone who drinks. If you want to do that, if you want to enjoy life and that's how you choose to do something again, I would preach moderation, but go fucking nuts. I don't care. I don't give a shit what you do. As long as you're not hurting anybody, I don't give a fuck. But, personally, I've always hated the arguments for drinking. So the 2 most notable arguments that I've come into contact with is someone saying, well, beer gives you a little edge. It gives you a little, bump. Like it makes you feel more confident and pushing forward, right? Gives you a little more, it loosens you up and just lets you flow. It's like a good conversation starter. It's good for that, talking. You know, you do it with friends and you loosen up. And to me, I've always shot back with the exact response. And this is since I was like, I don't know, 12 or whatever. My parents were like, hey, do you want to try this? Because I never understood why. And that was one of the reasons people gave me. And I was like, oh, okay, so you're doing it, just to be clear, you're doing it because you want to loosen up, and it makes you confident. And in both of those can create a good conversation with your friends or enjoyment, right? And to me, I've always been like, wait, why would I want to tie those things to this substance? Why would I want to be confident, and to be relaxed and loose, and to be social, that's what I was looking for, but only at the behest of this? Why wouldn't I just try to work on being those things without it? That way I'm always those things. I hope I'm not coming across as like an asshole, like know-it-all, dumbass, whatever, you know? Like it was just weird. But just that's my thought pattern. It's always my thought pattern. Now another one of the examples that I was always given, which I think is actually the same as the ones I mentioned, basically, about people saying it's liquid encouragement. What is it? That was called liquid encouragement. But basically, it gives you confidence, I guess. So when you're speaking to a woman or whatever, that's where a lot of dating or like getting together with people happens, is at bars, because it kind of facilitates that. So then my argument is, well, I don't want this thing again. Like alcohol to be the catalyst for talking to potentially a person that could be amazing, you know, a girlfriend material or whatever you want to call it. I know it's weird, but still. I don't want it to be tied to this. Like, why does these simple things like being social or being confident tied to this? I would rather be all of those things without it. So that was always what I thought. I was like, okay, why do people do this? It's because of those reasons. That's why people, drink. It's that. And then I also, throughout my years, I constantly kept seeing other things. I was like, oh, when I see people drink, they get really happy. Like, they're really happy, and it's weird. I also seen people get really fucking angry and really frustrated and irritated. I've also seen a lot of women get very touchy and feely and like, I'm sure everyone knows a girl who gets real touchy and like that when consuming alcohol. And I was like, okay. So now it's not just those things. It affects you. It fundamentally pushes you in a direction. So I was like, okay. And I'll be honest, the one that really stuck in my head was that anger part. Because I'm pretty neutral, almost always. And I would always probably self-destruct rather than get angry. Just because I would rather not, yell in someone's face. Anyways, point being is that I've always come to that conclusion. That was interesting to me. And these last couple days, I was realizing, or I was thinking about, why are you running away from a potential version of yourself? I talked to you guys about the whole idea of emotions and how they're the one thing to me where it's so hard to get a read on. It's so hard to narrow in and understand your emotions. Like, why are you doing this in this way? Why are you reacting in this way? Why? Like, it's really weird for me personally. But I can be totally fine, like not like in distress, but I'll cry. So for instance, okay, I shouldn't say I cry. But okay, so when you like, I don't know, something gets to you and you realize and stress builds up or whatever, anxiety, and maybe it manifests in a way that where you cry, right? I'm not sure if it's just the men in my family have overactive tear ducts maybe, but I'll like deal with it in a sec, it'll stop. But then I'll keep crying for like an extra, I don't know, 10 minutes after the fact. And I'm like, why? Like, I'm not even, like, I can tell you, I'm speaking clearly. I don't know why, but I'm still going. And it's ridiculous. I don't know what's going on. So that's an example of me being like, I don't know how that works. Like, I'm not that messed up, at least I don't think. But yet my body keeps reacting in a way that is. So I'm like, well, shit, I still don't have a read on my emotions. The more I've come to grow, I've realized that it's not about controlling your emotions so much as guiding them in a direction and facilitating a life that orients one emotion over the other. But that's not to say that you shouldn't face your emotions when you're feeling it. I'm a big proponent of when you feel sad, sit in that. Not like stay in there, but understand what that is like, because that is life. Life is a constant wave of happiness, sadness, and a slew of other emotions coming at you in waves. But they're waves. They eventually dwindle out. Sometimes you have to, swim through them, but otherwise it's just a rising stream or whatever. Point being is that it's not something you can control necessarily, something that you can guide and facilitate. At least that's what I've come to that deduction of. But anyways, since I'm a proponent of understanding oneself in that way, I was like, you know what? Maybe we should just once see what it's like, because I want to know for me what kind of drunk, I guess, I am. So I was like, okay, should we do this? I mean, again, I really like the idea of me being like, I just have never touched that stuff. I've never wanted to touch that stuff. And I start digging into my subconscious and start thinking, well, is that the case? Because otherwise it's a pretty simple question. You haven't done something, you're just going to try it once and stop. And then I'm like, okay, maybe there's something else here. So then I start asking myself more questions. Is this maybe a Native American thing? Because for me, I'll be honest, I don't enjoy when I see a bunch of, it's kind of a messed up stereotype. For those guys who don't know, I'm Native American and Portuguese, proud of both. But, a lot of times going through life, when we're driving a vehicle or when we're walking down the road or whatever, we'll look at a person that's stumbling and, exhibits being drunk, and we pass him and we're like, oh, he's a native guy. Oh, why do you gotta do that? Why do you gotta play into this shitty stereotype? Why can't you be better than the stereotype kind of thing? You get frustrated with your own people kind of thing. Anyways, so maybe that feeds into it. Maybe it's like I don't want to be that. I don't want to be what is otherwise represented of my people, And clearly some of us don't handle alcohol well at all, So I'm like, maybe that's it. Maybe I'm scared of that thing. And then that bothered me. That really set it home when I was like, I can't live in fear of a part of myself, like a thing that could be, you know? Again, I'm a person that really wants to be, this kind of sounds kind of weird and Buddhist, but one with myself, to understand myself so that I can be the man that I so dearly want to be. So I was like, okay, enough of this jibber jabber of us convincing myself to do it. We're doing it. We're going to do it. We're just going to see what's going to happen. We're going to see what it's like, right? So it's like, all right. I don't know how to feel about it, but all right. So you guys might be like, okay, well, what's the instance? Well, because of me having these perceptions of alcohol and alcoholism specifically, I was like, okay, I don't want this to be some sort of weird glorification and or catered experience. I want this to be the numb, specifically looking at what it is kind of experience. So I was like, okay, I want to just drink by myself, because for one, I just want to see how it affects me, what it pulls out of me, what I feel. And I feel like if I was with friends or family, I'd be trying to project certain things. And maybe that's, with that being said, I'll tell you guys the story, but anyways, that was my experience. So when Sunday came around, my free day where I do nothing, well, I do, but most of the time I try not to do anything, just to give myself some sort of break from making videos and anything, but I still usually like edit. Anyways, I set up a chair, this chair specifically. I set it right in front of my TV. I put on a podcast. It was like 2 hours long. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have four beers. They were just trashy beers, whatever we had in the fridge, which was like Budweiser and Bud Light and shit like that. I know a lot of you guys are like, ew, beer, this, that. I get it. I do think the culture around beers is fascinating and fun, at the very least. The drunk aspect of it is what I don't think I really jive with at all. But anyways, I got everything. I got the beer. I got 4 beers, and I was like, okay. And it was fun. It was a little bit fun for me because again, this was all about testing. Like specifically, I didn't want this to be about like, let's get fucked up, because I don't want that. I wanted to feel like what it was like to be drunk, but I wanted to understand was my goal. So I was like, okay. So I sat in my chair and I got 4 beers. And again, the whole week, my brain was thinking about, I wonder what kind of drunk am I going to be? Am I going to be a bastard? Am I going to be a real douche? Or am I going to be real happy? I've seen people light up. Am I going to be a lightweight? I'm going to have like 1 beer and poof, gone. So I was like, okay, let's see what happens. So I sat down, we had 4 beers. I talked to my dad about it, by the way. He's like, 4 beers, probably not do it. Just because, just usually that doesn't happen. But then my mom shot in and she's like, 4 beers is too much. It's gonna destroy him for the first alcohol he's ever had from a body that's never touched it. And I was like, okay. So anyways, I sat in the chair, I turned on the podcast. Oh, actually not true. I drank it. So I cracked the beer, I drank it. I think it was a Bud Light, some sort of trash. Actually, not even a Bud Light. I think it was just a Bud, whatever. It's just a beer, basically. Anyways, I cracked it open, drank it, and I was waiting for it because I've always heard people say that beer tastes like piss, like this disgusting, vile kind of thing. It's an acquired taste and all that. And I was like, okay, whatever. I drink like black coffee. I drink kombucha, which is frankly worse than beer. You guys, a little spoiler, but yeah. So I drank the beer, and I was like, oh, it tastes like nothing. It tastes like watery, and I tasted a bunch, and I was like, it doesn't have that much of a powerful taste. The carbon, which I was thinking about it, because I've always seen beer fizz like crazy. And I was thinking, oh, that's probably very carbony. So I bet it's really hard to chug a beer because it's gonna tear up your throat. Maybe I'm just a freak, but I finished the beer in three drinks. And that's also probably because of the way I drink in general. It's just to drink a ton of water, which I guess that translates to drinking anything else. Anyways, point being is I finished my first one and I was just like, didn't taste like much, didn't taste like vile like I thought it would. Also, the carbon was not that bad. You'll be in much more pain drinking a Coke than you will a beer, at least to me. Anyways, finished one, done. Waited like maybe, honestly, I shouldn't tell you guys this, but I should say I waited like 5 minutes or 10 minutes just to see what happened. I waited like 2 minutes and I was like, I feel fucking nothing. Well, I'm kind of bored and I'm watching this podcast. So I cracked another one, drank it. Another like 3 minutes went by and I was like, I feel nothing, like nothing. And weird because my mom gave me the omen of being like, hey, slow down because it'll hit you. And I was like, all right. I'm usually like, and again, I was doing the thing where I do like my dumb meditation thing where I close my eyes and I try to feel my body. I can like listen to my heart rate. I can feel like something going on in my stomach. I didn't feel any of that. Anyways, so I did another one. So I'm in 4 beers in now, and I'm like, I feel nothing. I feel nothing. So I had 4 beers, and I'm sitting there like, okay, I didn't expect this. I thought again, you'd feel like some sort of thing. The only thing that I did slightly start to feel, by the way, at this point, I finished 4 in 20 minutes, and then I watched like another 10 or 20 minutes of the podcast. So I was well within like an hour in to the thing. So I think it had a time to ferment and go through the body, right? Anyways, the only thing that I felt was a very, very slight wobbliness. Not wobbliness. I shouldn't even say wobbly. It wasn't dizzy yet. I was disconnected. I felt like like your vision starts to go like this, but not like, you know how movies almost show you like your vision getting blacker and blacker? It wasn't like that. It was just like you're not able to focus. But even with 4 beers, it wasn't like that. It was, I'm kind of spoiling the rest of the night. But anyways, so yes, I basically was like, this is nothing. I don't feel anything. The best case scenario is I feel slightly disconnected with my body. I feel the same way when I was really ill, except worse when I was ill. Like when you're feeling dizzy and pukey and you have a cold and you're like, oh my God. It was like a quarter of that. So I was like, okay. So I went upstairs, talked to my parents. So I did have some social aspect of it. So I did understand that. By the way, I'm monitoring myself pretty militantly while this whole experience is happening. So I'm like, I don't feel anything. I feel nothing. Like I feel like I'm exactly what I've always felt. I don't feel happy. I don't feel sad. I don't feel more talkative. I just feel like I'm kind of, again, I'm starting to feel a disconnect with my body. That's it. So like, okay, So then I go upstairs, talk to my parents, let them know what's going on. I'm like, I don't feel anything. My mom was like, you fucking drank 4 beers in 20 minutes, you fucking idiot. I'm like, I don't know, I don't feel anything. And my dad was like, ha ha ha, he got it from me. And I'm like, all right, Dad, whatever. Anyways, so I go into the garage and I get more. I get, what is it? I think 3. Nope, yeah, 3. I get 3 more. So this would be 7 beers in total. So I sit back down, I crack 1 more, and I finish it. And I'm like, okay. And then I started waiting. And I waited and I waited and I was like, okay. I'm starting that feeling of being, what do you call it, disconnected from my body increased. A little, but enough to be like, okay. So I was like, all right, we're getting somewhere. So I cracked another one, drank that one. So we're, I think, 6 beers in now. And I'm starting to feel, at that point when I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere. We're starting to feel drunk. So I was like, okay. So at this point, I started doing those tests because I'm a weirdo. So I was like, okay, they always do that pull you over kind of thing, like in movies or in TV shows. They always, pull over a drunk person. They say, hey, do these set of tasks. Do this, run in a straight line, or not run in a straight line, walk in a straight line, and all those things. So I did all those, and I was like, I get what they mean, but I wasn't like, it's not like you're that broken from your body or what you can do. So anyways, I was able to walk in a straight line and all that stuff, but the feeling of being disconnected from your body was ever present, like just super, super present. And not like, at this point, it was about maybe a little bit less than having like a really bad cold and feeling like dizzy and like offset, like your body's poisoned at this point. So again, I'm like, okay, my stomach's not turning. I don't feel like I want to puke. I just feel like I feel like my focus is getting lessened, which doesn't mean I can't see things. You can still see color. You can still see all this shit. But my focus, like when I'm watching the podcast that I'm watching, it's only like it starts to get narrow in a weird way. But like you can see everything. It's just like your focus starts to get more centered, I guess. Kind of like tunnel vision in a way for me. So I was like, okay. I'm still able to talk. Like I don't want to show you guys, but I have recordings on my phone where I was like talking to myself, being like, okay, I feel this way. I can still say Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. A pack of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers, how many packs of pickled peppers did Peter Piper pick? I can still say that. I said that when I was fucking soon to be 7 beers in. So I was like, okay, my cognitive brain and being able to speak isn't messed up, and I have the, what do you call it, the drunk videos of me on my phone. That I'm not showing you guys, I refuse. But point being is that what do you call it, cognitively my voice and whatnot was not disconnected, nor again I'm not sure whether to feel disappointed or heartwarmed at this outcome, because again, how do I put it into words, I was kind of like, I wanted to know if I became more happy, which honestly was terrified. Like I was more terrified of me enjoying it than me being bad by it, because if I enjoyed it, then maybe it would facilitate, I sound shitty, but better content and stuff like that. So maybe if I'm more funny and relaxed, when I'm under the influence or drunk. Maybe that I could make a video about that, and it'd be a better video, So I didn't really want it to be that, and lo and behold, it wasn't. That's the thing that was so weird, is that I felt like exactly the same. And some guys might be like, well, Grin, maybe you're just a freak and you're drinking really light beers or whatever, right? From my knowledge, that's not the case, but maybe that was the case. Again, looking at the beer content, I don't think that is. Maybe you have a high alcohol tolerance. Well, no, because I still felt dizzy. I still felt the effect. I just didn't feel any effect to my brain. I didn't feel more angry. I didn't feel more happy. I just felt like I always feel, which is just neutral, more or less. I felt, sounds kind of messed up, but I felt nothing. I felt like I didn't enjoy the podcast more that I was listening to. All I felt like was that I was unable, and this is the other thing, completely numb to everything around me. It just perpetuated numbness. It didn't, and that's not necessarily meaning sadness. It didn't make me sad. It didn't make me depressed or anything like that. So for me, it's just weird. It's incredibly strange because, again, like I'm sitting there and I'm like, the reason why I said it for the better, for the worse, or whatever, was because that's kind of a nice outcome, I was worried that somewhat I would enjoy it, and that would be its own kind of problem. I was worried that I'd be, an angry person, and I've never really experienced what it's like to be truly fucking like gutturally, hatefully wanting to hurt people kind of mad. Actually, that's not true. I have, but just I don't manifest in the same way. Anyways, but the outcome was that I'm just me. So even when absolutely drunk, not absolutely drunk, I wasn't blackout, but completely, gone there, I didn't become this sort of thing. I didn't become angry. I didn't become this. I was me. So I'm all like the person who I am now is who even when drunk am me still. So it wasn't like I became more happy, I became more flirty, I became more anything. I just was me. I even, like, going upstairs, I was worried. I was like, what if I tell my parents some, like, shit that I did way in the past and it was brutal, and I was like, oh no. But, no, I didn't have any of that. But again, I was still fully into that. Now, again, just to explain. So that was my thought pattern about that. But, like, the feelings I had with it. So now to go into it, that I was like, oh no, I was drunk. I absolutely was drunk. So the reason why I would say that is because when I was, what was it? Damn it, what was it? I was alright, I was at this point fully 7 beers in, fully in there, and I was like, oh my god, this sucks. This sucks so much. Again, cognitively I was there. Now I'm not sure if that's because the more you drink, the more your body starts to get more poison and disconnect from your brain. Maybe this was the first time I was drinking, so I was able to completely, like, again, say that Peter Piper thing, or whether the weather be hot, whether the weather be cold, we'll be together, whatever the weather. I just fucked up there, but apparently I'm more accurate on beer. But anyway, yeah, a bunch of tongue twisters that I could say fine, and I could still hold a conversation fine. The only thing that was, like, completely the thing that I walked away from the experience being, and again, I have, like, recordings of myself, so it's not like I have this diluted version of events. I walked out of the event being like, I feel so dizzy. That was it. I didn't feel more angry. I didn't feel more happy. Again, maybe it's one of those things where you develop those things when you truly drink a lot. I don't know. But the one thing that I absolutely do know is it was just dizzy. I felt dizzy and like it was somewhat hard to focus. Like, again, my vision kept, like, pushing everything else away and just focusing on one thing, and I was like, whatever. So I totally understand when some drunk dude is just, like, looking off into the sky and they're like, oh, whatever. I kind of get that part of it, which is messed up. But what was the other thing? Oh, right, dizzy and focus was the big thing. But dizzy, man, I remember, like, but it wasn't dizzy enough to where I was, like, falling on the ground. I think that's where you get, like, to blackout levels of drunk. But I was still able to, like, do push-ups. I was still able to jump. Still able to walk in a straight line, albeit kind of hard. I was doing one of these when I was walking in a straight line, but I never caved. Okay, I ended up going to bed really early that night. I didn't feel like I wanted to puke, but the one thing that was very present, again, was that I was feeling really dizzy. So I was sitting there and I was just like, man, why do people do this? And again, I don't mean to be judgy, but just this is me talking to myself in a sense, which is what the series is. Why do people do this? Because, like, I don't feel, I guess I'm not blessed or cursed with one of those things where when I drink, I feel happy. When I drink, I feel sad. I'm just me. But why do people want to put themselves in this dizzy state? Like this, like I can't do anything. Like I can't, like I can sit in my chair, I can do that, but I can't focus. Like I could force myself to, but it'd be virtually impossible. I find it just annoying as hell to walk around and just constantly having this kind of like feeling like this, like wobbly, like this kind of back and forth. And I'm like, well, why do people want this? Also, it makes you feel like dull, like deadened almost from the rest of the world, which I think is, at that point I probably drank too much, because I don't think you're supposed to, like, your vision's supposed to get more blurred and like focused on one thing. My vision wasn't getting blurred. Again, I just can't explain it. You're like almost, it's not like your vision's getting blurred, it's just like your focus, and it's weird because it's like your intent to focus is there, but it's smaller, at least for me. Again, it's like I could walk straight, but again, I felt wobbly. Then again, I think I just was counter-correcting it in my hand a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. To me, I just came back to the conclusion of the only drunk I am is a dizzy one. At least from, again, maybe if you're with friends, that is the absolute necessity of it. But again, I wasn't like I wasn't talking to people. I went upstairs, talked to my parents a bunch, those kinds of things. But yeah, the only thing I walked away from being like, oh, I'm a dizzy drunk. I'm a dizzy drunk, and it's absolutely not for me. From a person that cherishes time and wants to get things done and wants to improve. That's what I was trying to talk about, by the way. I ended the night early because I just was like, I can't do anything, man. I'm just like, I can't edit. I can't watch even a video because I'm just not even here, you know? Like, I tune out every 10 seconds. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to go upstairs, have a shower. Had a shower, wash my body, was able to clean myself fine. It wasn't like dizzy and falling all over the place. So I was like, okay, I just went in bed, slept. It helped me sleep a little, because that's the only benefit. I woke up the next morning, no hangover, because I remembered hearing on a podcast I was watching from an old ex-alcoholic telling people how the best way to not experience a hangover is just to drink a fuck ton of water whilst you were drinking. So I did. I drank a lot of water, so I woke up the next day. Didn't feel that dizzy. Although I did feel like I woke up maybe a little drunk still, which is weird. Also, one of the things I didn't tell you guys, another one of the symptoms I experienced, which I don't know if it's good or bad, but my lips went numb. So I was drinking, I got to the 7th beer and I was just like, I can't feel my lips. I'm like, let's stop. Let's not go get more. Let's stop here. I can't feel my lips. My focus is starting to narrow in. Everything's bad. I wanted to puke. I never did though, because I was just like, get in your head, me. You may be drunk, but we're okay. We're okay. We're not gonna puke. We're gonna watch this podcast. We're gonna finish this son of a bitch, and we watched it. So I drank 7 beers, by the way, in a span of an hour and a half. I don't think that's good or bad. Maybe bad. I don't know. But walked away from the experience just believing everything I believed as well beforehand. So it's not like I walked out of the experience being like, I'm missing out. I walked out of the experience being like, nope, I will never drink alcohol ever again. I don't want to. I'd much prefer something like sugar, honestly, like a Coke or something. It has less calories even and all those things. I was like, yeah, I'd rather choose that. It doesn't fuck my head up. It doesn't do any of these things. Yeah. So I walked away from an experience believing exactly what I already believed. Doesn't happen often with me, but it what happened. I'm happy about it. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was your boy, 22 years of age, I think, at this point. Yes, 22. And drank for the first time. I walked away from it being like, oh, I never need to do this again. I can say I only ever drank once in my life, and that was to see what happened. And it was, frankly, anticlimactic and just generally dizzy. That was it. I don't know what to say besides, if you're out there and you're thinking about, hey, maybe trying it, I mean, sure, try it, test yourself, always understand yourself, learn thyself and all that. But I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's good either. Again, if the debate is that it's a social thing, I'd rather be social without needing it, or rather be social without having to be drunk or tipsy. I'd want to develop confidence without the means of a substance. I would want to taste things that are good without them having a chance to kind of fuck up my brain. And I realize there's a moderation thing there, which I agree with. I think that's fine if you drink, as long as you're doing it with moderation, I think you're fine. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was just a mouthful, frankly. How long was this? Ooh, 36 minutes. I tried to make it as streamlined as I possibly could, but yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most weird Let's Talks, but it's honestly, it feels right at the same time, because yes, it is one of those things where I was like, hey, I've always wondered about this. I've always wondered if what would I be. Here are my findings. Maybe I'm crazy, who knows. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Subscribe button above me. Nope, right here. Subscribe button's right here, as well as 2 videos further over there. Maybe the set is still not properly condensed. Who knows? Bye.